The desperate request. The enormous Galactic Coalition diplomatic vessel dwarfed the orbital station where Earth's United Space Command maintained its headquarters. Its crystalline surface reflected sunlight in iridescent patterns that would have been beautiful under different circumstances. Today, it represented desperation. Admiral Ilara Santos stood at the viewport, watching the alien ship dock with practiced precision. At 58, she had seen humanity rise from a fledgling spacefaring species to a respected, if somewhat secretive, member of the galactic community. What she hadn't seen in her 30-year career was the Coalition asking humans for military aid. "They're here, Admiral," her aide Lieutenant Commander Rivera announced. "The High Emissary and his delegation are being escorted to Conference Room Alpha." Santos nodded, smoothing the creases in her uniform. "And the Defense Council representatives?" "Already seated. Secretary Chen is representing the civilian government." "Good," Santos replied, turning from the viewport. "Let's not keep them waiting." The conference room fell silent as Santos entered. Around the oval table sat Earth's Defense Council, 5 senior military commanders and 3 civilian officials, including Secretary Chen, a shrewd diplomat who had helped negotiate Earth's entry into the Coalition 15 years ago. Across from them sat the alien delegation. High Emissary Salter was an imposing figure from the Talixi species, his 4 arms folded in the traditional gesture of supplication, iridescent scales shifting color with his emotional state. Currently, they displayed a deep purple. "Fear." "Admiral Santos," Salter began, his translator rendering his harmonic language into crisp English. "We appreciate Earth's willingness to hear our request." Santos took her seat. "The Coalition has been a valuable ally, Emissary. We take our mutual defense agreements seriously." "Then perhaps you can explain why Earth has ignored 17 distress calls from Coalition worlds over the past solar cycle." Another alien, this one a Virgose with bird-like features, interjected. Secretary Chen leaned forward. "Ambassador Trell, we have provided humanitarian aid to 12 of those worlds. As for military intervention, you have sent supplies and medical personnel," Trell snapped, "while the Void Dominion continues its expansion unchecked." Santos met the avian ambassador's gaze. "Earth's defense policy has always been transparent. We maintain our forces primarily for the protection of human colonies and interests." "Yet you possess one of the largest military fleets in this sector," Salter observed. His scales shifted to a greenish hue. "Skepticism. A fleet we built because humanity learned through centuries of conflict that peace is never guaranteed," Santos replied evenly. "But deploying our advanced battle groups would risk escalation." Salter's secondary hands made a fluttering gesture that translated to urgency. "Escalation is inevitable, Admiral. The Dominion has conquered 17 worlds in 8 cycles. Their quantum-based weapons tear through our shields like fabric. Their vessels outmaneuver our fastest ships. Their predictive algorithms anticipate our every strategy." The emissary placed a crystalline data module on the table. It projected a holographic star map showing the Dominion's rapid expansion, a crimson tide flowing inexorably toward Coalition space, and beyond that, toward human territory. "Our analysts predict they will reach the Arcturus Gateway within 30 days. Salter continued. "Once they control that nexus, they will have direct hyperspace lanes to 17 more systems, including 3 human colonies." Santos studied the projection, her expression unchanged though her mind raced through calculations. The Dominion's advancement was methodical, efficient, almost algorithmic. "Their ships employ an artificial intelligence called the Nexus," Trell added. "It processes combat data and adapts faster than organic commanders can think. Our tactics become obsolete the moment we deploy them." Secretary Chen glanced at Santos, a silent question passing between them. Santos gave an almost imperceptible nod. "The Defense Council will need to deliberate," Chen announced. "If you would give us the room, we will reconvene in 1 hour." After the alien delegation departed, heated debate erupted among the human representatives. Admiral Hirano of the Advanced Fleet Division pounded the table. We cannot expose our phase shift technology to alien observation. We've maintained technological superiority precisely by keeping our most advanced systems secret. General Okafor nodded in agreement. If the Dominion captures even one of our Vanguard-class vessels, they could reverse engineer capabilities we've spent decades developing. Santos listened to the arguments, waiting for the initial reactions to subside before she spoke. When she finally did, all eyes turned to her. "I'm not proposing we send the Vanguard fleet," she said quietly. "What then?" Secretary Chen asked. Santos tapped her datapad, and a new hologram replaced the star map. 12 vessels appeared, angular, battle-scared, and obviously dated compared to Earth's sleek modern warships. "The Heritage Fleet," she declared. Admiral Hirano scoffed. "Those relics. Half of them were scheduled for decommissioning years ago." "Precisely," Santos replied. "They represent technology at least 3 generations behind our current capabilities. Ships the Coalition considers barely spaceworthy. You want to send obsolete vessels against the most advanced enemy the Coalition has ever faced?" General Okafor asked incredulously. Santos stood, walking around the table to manipulate the hologram. The Dominion's AI excels at predicting conventional tactics and technological countermeasures. But these ships, she highlighted the largest vessel, named Resilient, were built in an era when humans couldn't rely on perfect technology. She zoomed in on the ship's specifications, manually operated backup systems, analog navigation capabilities, redundant command centers, physical switches and controls that can't be hacked, armor plating instead of just energy shields. They're designed not just to win fights, but to survive catastrophic failures. Secretary Chen's expression showed dawning comprehension. "And their crews. The Heritage Fleet is our training division, but not in the way the Coalition understands it. These crews don't train for optimal performance. They train for worst-case scenarios, power failures, communication blackouts, catastrophic damage. They practice fighting blind, deaf, and crippled." The room fell silent as the implications settled over them. "The Dominion's AI has never encountered human ingenuity when backed into a corner," Santos continued. "It's never fought an enemy that expects systems to fail and keeps fighting anyway. It's still a tremendous risk," Chen said finally. If we lose, Santos interrupted, "we've revealed nothing of our true capabilities. The Dominion will believe they've defeated Earth's best and grow overconfident. Meanwhile, our actual response forces will have valuable combat data." Slowly, heads began to nod around the table. "And if somehow these outdated ships succeed?" Hirano asked. Santos allowed herself a small smile. "Then the Dominion learns a lesson about humanity that the Coalition already knows but has forgotten. We survived to reach the stars not because we built perfect ships, but because we learned to keep fighting when everything goes wrong." 3 hours later, Santos stood in the same conference room, facing the alien delegation. Their expressions registered confusion as they studied the holographic display of the 12 vessels Earth was offering. "These are training vessels," Salter asked, scales fluctuating between disbelief and disappointment. "The Heritage Fleet," Santos confirmed. 12 battle-tested ships under the command of Captain Kaito Nakamura. Trell made a dismissive gesture. "Admiral, with respect, we requested military aid. These vessels appear to be several generations behind Egonar technology, let alone capable of standing against the Dominion." "You requested our help," Santos corrected gently. "This is what we're offering." Zalter studied the ships more carefully. "The Resilient. This vessel shows evidence of sustaining catastrophic damage in the past. Why wasn't it replaced?" "Because it survived," Santos answered simply. "Every ship in this fleet has faced destruction and returned home. Every crew member specializes in the unexpected." The aliens exchanged glances filled with doubt. "The Dominion will destroy these ships within moments of engagement," Trell predicted bleakly. Santos met the avian's gaze steadily. "Perhaps, but I recommend you observe carefully when they do. You might learn something about why humans survived long enough to join your coalition." Zalter's scales shifted to a reluctant blue acceptance. "We have little choice but to accept any assistance offered, Admiral." "When can this Heritage Fleet deploy?" "They're already making departure preparations," Santos replied. "Captain Nakamura will rendezvous with your forces at the Arcturus Gateway in 7 days." After the meeting concluded, Santos made her way to the command center's secure communications room. The quantum entangled transmission system, technology the Coalition believed was still theoretical, connected her instantly to the Resilient. Captain Kaito Nakamura's weathered face appeared on the screen. At 45, he looked older, his black hair streaked with premature gray, a scar running from his left temple to his jaw. His eyes, however, remained sharp and attentive. "The mission is approved, Captain," Santos informed him. "The Coalition representatives were underwhelmed by our offering." Nakamura's laugh was rough but genuine. "As expected, Admiral. My crew is prepared. The Heritage Fleet will deploy within 6 hours. The Dominion's AI uses predictive algorithms based on standard combat doctrine," Santos reminded him. "They've never encountered human tactics. We'll give them something their computers can't process," Nakamura promised. "Unpredictability is our specialty." Santos nodded. "Your objectives are straightforward. Secure the Arcturus Gateway, preserve your fleet if possible, and most importantly, survive long enough to show the Dominion what happens when you corner humans." "Understood, Admiral." Nakamura's expression grew serious. "Permission to speak freely?" "Always, Kaito. The Heritage Fleet may look like relics to the Coalition, but every ship has a soul forged in fire. Every crew member knows what it means to face impossible odds. We were built for this mission." Santos smiled. "That's exactly why you were chosen, Captain. The Dominion thinks it's facing the Coalition's conventional forces, with a few obsolete human ships thrown in. They don't understand that they're about to face humanity's greatest weapon." "Which is?" Nakamura asked. "Our intimate relationship with disaster," Santos replied. "Safe journey, Captain. Show them why humans still carry flashlights and keep paper maps. Show them why, after thousands of years of technological advancement, we still prepare for failure." As the communication ended, Santos turned to find Lieutenant Commander Rivera standing at attention behind her. "Lieutenant, send word to the Vanguard fleet. I want them on standby, but out of sensor range." "You think the Heritage Fleet will fail?" Rivera asked. Santos looked at the tactical display where 12 aging ships were preparing to depart Earth orbit, small, seemingly insignificant vessels heading toward an overwhelming enemy. "No," she said with quiet certainty. "I think they're going to teach everyone, the Coalition and the Dominion, why humanity survived long enough to reach the stars. But I believe in preparation. After all, that's the human way." The impossible victory. Captain Kaito Nakamura stood on the bridge of the Resilient, watching the swirling chaos of hyperspace through the reinforced viewport. Unlike modern ships that displayed digitally enhanced images on screens, the Heritage Fleet maintained actual windows, an anachronism that Coalition species found baffling but which had saved human lives more than once when systems failed. "Quantum fluctuations increasing, Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Ishida from the sensor station. "We're approaching the Arcturus Gateway." Nakamura nodded, making a small adjustment to the worn leather glove on his left hand, covering the prosthetic that had replaced his original limb during the Europa conflict. "All ships, prepare for emergence. Combat stations." Around him, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. None of the frantic energy seen on Coalition vessels, just calm, methodical preparation for what might be waiting on the other side. Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez's voice came through the intercom. "Engineering ready, Captain. Primary and secondary systems operational. Tertiary backups standing by. Weapons systems primed," reported Lieutenant Park from Tactical. "Conventional batteries at full charge. Kinetic launchers loaded." Nakamura allowed himself a moment of pride. These weren't the elite Academy graduates who staffed Earth's advanced fleets. His crew were problem solvers, officers who thought outside conventional doctrine, engineers who could jury-rig solutions with limited resources, tactical specialists who thrived in chaos. Emergence in 30 seconds, Ishida announced. Comms, notify the fleet, Nakamura ordered. Shield configurations Delta on emergence. Be prepared to scatter on my mark. The swirling hyperspace distortion reached its crescendo, and with a final violent shudder, the Resilient tore back into normal space. The 11 other vessels of the Heritage Fleet emerged in a tight formation behind it. For one heartbeat, the scene before them appeared peaceful, the massive structure of the Arcturus Gateway hanging in space like a technological cathedral, its ring-shaped accelerator allowing ships to access the hyperspace network. Then reality asserted itself. Multiple contacts. Ishida called out. Coalition Defense Fleet engaged with Dominion forces. I count 23 Coalition vessels still operational, against 37 Dominion warships. The tactical display painted a grim picture. The Coalition forces were arranged in a classic defensive formation, larger vessels forming a shield wall while faster attack craft darted forward in coordinated strikes. Textbook tactics. And they were losing. Badly. Nakamura watched as 3 Coalition cruisers fired simultaneous volleys at a Dominion destroyer. Their energy beams converged with precision that would have destroyed any conventional vessel. The Dominion ship's quantum shields flickered but held. Then it returned fire, its weapons lashing out with surgical precision at each cruiser's command center. 2 Coalition vessels went dark immediately. The third managed to evade, only to collide with another ally as the Dominion's predictive algorithms had calculated it would. Coalition commander requesting immediate assistance, the communications officer reported. They're transmitting tactical data and formation assignments. Nakamura studied the recommendation. The Heritage Fleet was being directed to reinforce the Coalition's failing shield wall, exactly where the Dominion would expect them. Acknowledge receipt, but do not confirm compliance, Nakamura ordered. All ships implement Chaos Protocol. Throughout the bridge, officers exchanged knowing glances. They had drilled this scenario hundreds of times. Sir, Ishida began hesitantly, the Coalition commander is demanding we take position. We're not here to die predictably, Lieutenant. Nakamura cut in. Tactical. Target these coordinates with kinetic weapons only. He marked 6 points on the display, seemingly empty space behind the Dominion fleet. Firing solution ready. Park confirmed, though confusion was evident in his voice. Execute. All ships, scatter and initiate electromagnetic blackout on my mark. Nakamura settled into his command chair, securing the physical harness that would keep him in place when inertial dampeners inevitably failed. 3, 2, 1 mark. The Heritage Fleet erupted into action, but not as a coordinated unit. Each vessel suddenly accelerated in a different direction, engines pushing to maximum burn. Simultaneously, their electromagnetic signatures diminished to near zero as systems were physically disconnected from main power. From the Coalition perspective, it must have looked like madness or cowardice. The human ships appeared to be fleeing in disarray, going dark as they ran. The Dominion response was immediate. 5 of their vessels broke pursuit to intercept the scattered human ships, exactly as Nakamura had predicted. Kinetic impacts in 3, 2, 1. Park counted down. In the seemingly empty space behind the Dominion fleet, 6 massive explosions bloomed silently. Nakamura had targeted the drone minefield the Dominion had placed as a trap for retreating Coalition forces, a trap revealed in the tactical data they'd been sent. The chain reaction sent thousands of hyper-accelerated debris fragments scattering through the Dominion formation, overwhelming their shields designed to stop energy weapons, not physical impacts. All ships implement Phase 2. Nakamura ordered through the short-range, directional laser communication system, undetectable unless directly in its path. The Heritage Fleet's scattered vessels suddenly killed their engines and rotated, presenting minimal cross-sections to enemy sensors. Without active power signatures, they effectively became space debris, indistinguishable from the fragments of destroyed coalition ships littering the battlefield. "They've lost track of us," Ishida reported with satisfaction. "Dominion vessels are returning to their primary engagement." "Perfect," Nakamura replied. "Now we wait." For 17 excruciating minutes, the Resilient drifted, powered down to minimal life support. Through the viewport, Nakamura watched the coalition forces continuing their conventional battle, and continuing to lose. "Power reserves at mission-critical threshold," Rodriguez reported from engineering. "We need to restore systems within the next 10 minutes." Nakamura checked his physical chronometer. Right on schedule. Comms, laser signal to all ships. Execute Phase 3 on my mark. The Resilient's tactical officer prepared the ship's unconventional weapon, one the Dominion would never expect. "Mark," Nakamura ordered. Across the battlefield, 12 seemingly dead human vessels simultaneously released their payload, not missiles or energy beams, but thousands of small metallic objects that dispersed in clouds around each ship. "Chaff deployed," Park confirmed, density reaching optimal levels. On the Dominion sensors, the battlefield would suddenly be full of sensor ghosts, thousands of small objects reflecting their scanning beams, creating a haze of false signatures. "Restore power to essential systems," Nakamura commanded. "Engines at 30%. Weapons online. Intra-fleet communications only." The Resilient hummed back to life, though still running far below normal operational levels, a power signature too diffuse to distinguish from background radiation. "Position of primary Dominion command vessel?" Nakamura asked. Ishida consulted his readings. "Maintaining position 8 kilometers from the gateway, central coordination point for their fleet." "Perfect. All Heritage vessels, implement final approach vectors. Resilient will take point." With minimal power, the 12 human ships began moving through the chaff field they created, approaching the Dominion command ship from 12 different angles. Their movements were erratic, unpredictable, no formation, no recognizable pattern for the Dominion eye to analyze. "They've detected movement in the chaff field," Ishida warned. "Dominion vessels are adjusting positions." "Too late," Nakamura replied with grim satisfaction. "Execute Firefly protocol." Throughout the Heritage Fleet, crews disconnected their ship's reactor safety systems, a modification that would have horrified coalition engineers. Power surged through the vessels, pushing them beyond design tolerances. Systems began to overload and fail. Warning alarms blared across every bridge. But for 3 crucial minutes, the Heritage Fleet moved faster, hit harder, and generated stronger shields than their designs should have allowed. The Resilient accelerated directly toward the Dominion command ship, weapons firing continuously. Not the precision shots coalition tactics demanded, but a constant barrage from every functioning weapon system. "They're adapting to our approach," Park called out as return fire began lancing toward them. "Shields at 64% and falling." "Maintained heading," Nakamura ordered. "All power to forward shields and engines." A Dominion beam struck the Resilient's port side, shearing away an entire section of hull. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, sealing off the decompressed compartments. "Hull breach, decks 7 through 9, Rodriguez reported, rerouting power conduits. "Distance to target," Nakamura demanded, ignoring the damage reports flooding in. 2,000 meters, Ishida answered. "Their shields are holding against our weapons fire." Nakamura unlocked his command console and entered a 12-digit authorization code. "That's because we're not trying to break through their shields with our weapons." Understanding dawned on the bridge crew's faces. "All hands, brace for collision." Nakamura announced shipwide. "Initiate battering ram." The Resilient's remaining power diverted to its reinforced prow, a feature missing from modern warships, but standard on these older vessels, designed to function even after catastrophic damage. The ship became, essentially, a massive kinetic projectile. Simultaneously, the 11 other Heritage vessels executed similar maneuvers, each targeting a different critical Dominion ship. The Dominion command vessel's quantum shields, designed to disperse energy attacks, momentarily fluctuated as its AI attempted to reconfigure against this unexpected physical threat. In that fraction of a second, the Resilient struck. The impact was devastating. The human ship's reinforced prow crumpled, but it performed its function, transferring kinetic energy directly to the Dominion vessel's hull. Both ships tumbled from the impact, systems failing across both vessels. Damage report. Nakamura called out, pulling himself back into his seat after the collision had thrown him against his restraints. "We're crippled, Captain," Rodriguez replied, her voice steady despite the blood streaming from a gash on her forehead. "Main reactor containment holding, but we've lost 70% of our systems. Life support operating on backups." "And the target?" Ishida worked his console, which was operating on emergency power. "Dominion command ship has gone dark. No power signature, no communications emissions." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as the Heritage fleet executed what could only be described as a coordinated suicide run. 5 human vessels were completely destroyed, 4 others critically damaged like the Resilient. Only 3 remained marginally operational. But 11 key Dominion ships, including their command vessel, had been neutralized. Without central coordination from the Quantum Eye, the remaining Dominion vessels fell into disarray. Their tactics, once fluid and responsive, became rigid and predictable. The Coalition fleet, recognizing the opportunity created by the humans' sacrifice, reorganized and pressed their advantage. Within hours, the battle had turned. On the darkened bridge of the Resilient, illuminated only by emergency lighting and the glow of minimal backup systems, Nakamura watched through the cracked viewport as Coalition forces began to secure the Arcturus gateway. Transmission from Coalition Command. The communications officer reported, patching it through a jury-rigged speaker since the main systems were offline. "Human vessels, this is Supreme Commander Xaltis," came the translated voice, filled with disbelief. "Your tactics were unexpected. The Dominion fleet is in retreat. Arcturus gateway is secure." Nakamura activated the emergency transmitter. "Glad to hear it, Commander. The Heritage fleet requires immediate assistance. We have severe casualties and multiple ships in critical condition." There was a pause before the response came. "Captain Nakamura, I must ask, was this outcome anticipated in your battle plan?" Nakamura looked around at his injured but proud crew, each performing their duties despite the devastation around them. Engineers were already rigging temporary repairs, medics treating the wounded, tactical officers cataloging remaining capabilities. "Commander," he replied, "humanity has a saying: plan for the worst, hope for the best, and prepare to be surprised anyway. We didn't plan to win. We planned to survive long enough to make a difference. Your vessels, they were never meant to defeat the Dominion through superior technology," Xaltis observed. "No," Nakamura agreed. "They were meant to demonstrate that predicative algorithms fail when facing an enemy whose primary tactic is improvisation." As Coalition rescue vessels approached the crippled Resilient, Nakamura received a private transmission. This one through the quantum entanglement communicator hidden within his prosthetic arm. Admiral Santos' face appeared in a small hologram visible only to him. "Report, Captain." "Mission accomplished, Admiral," he responded quietly. "The Heritage fleet performed as expected. 7 vessels lost, 5 salvageable. Approximately 40% casualties." Santos nodded solemnly. "And the objective?" The Dominion's AI encountered scenarios outside its predictive models. Their adaptability faltered when faced with tactics that prioritized effect over self-preservation. "Good," Santos replied. "The Vanguard fleet will remain on standby, but I don't believe they'll be needed immediately. The Coalition now understands what humanity brings to this fight." Nakamura glanced around at his wounded ship, a vessel that had survived yet another impossible battle. Permission to begin salvage operations and prepare the surviving ships for return to service. Santos smiled. Already approved, Captain. After all, that's why we call it the Heritage Fleet. Those ships have stories to tell. As the transmission ended, Nakamura leaned back in his damaged command chair. Around him, despite injuries and exhaustion, his crew continued working, replacing burned-out circuits, bypassing damaged systems, improvising solutions with whatever materials remained. Through the viewport, he could see Coalition rescue ships approaching with an almost reverent caution, as if they were finally seeing these battered human vessels not as obsolete relics, but as something they had never truly understood before. Survivors. The Arcturus gateway glittered in the distance, secure once more. Beyond it lay hyperspace routes to 17 systems that would remain free, at least for now. And beyond that, the Dominion would be recalculating its strategies, confronting the realization that its perfect predictive algorithms had a critical blind spot. They had never accounted for an enemy that expected to lose, prepared to fail, and kept fighting anyway. They had never accounted for humans.